John Morrison, representing New South Wales, speaking to the topic of designer people. Please welcome John.
They were silent as they walked. Their boots were wrapped in burlap, their equipment taped so that it would make no noise. And in that moonless night, each man could see only the vaguest outline of the man in front and the white tape on the ground. And suddenly from over their shoulder came a retort, bang! A rifle would fire, and then several retaliatory shots and cries in a language that none of them could understand, but a tone they all knew. And each man smiled to himself and knew that they were one step closer to withdrawal from that hell. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, everyone in this room knows the story of the withdrawal from Gallipoli. It has been said that in 8 months it was the only thing that we actually did right. And it owed much to the brilliant planning of General White, the Chief of Staff of the Anzac Corps. But it owed more, I think, to the ingenuity, the inventiveness and the design skills of those ordinary soldiers who rigged up those tins of water that dripped and fired the rifles at uneven times, or had a lever fall that struck a match that lit a fire so that it looked as if men were still there. It was brilliant. It was inventive. And it was a part of that great tradition that we have in this country of being such a clever and innovative designer people. We love to tinker, we love to design new things. Do you know, one of the most amazing stories I ever heard was I was talking to an old country nurse one time, and she was telling me how she had been a nurse in Vietnam. And the first time she had a wounded soldier come in, she was told to clean out stow away his gear and put his pack out. And she started to throw out, she found a few pieces of wire and metal and thought, oh, that's just some rubbish, I'll throw that out. And someone said to her, no, man, you mustn't do that. Don't you know, soldiers love to design little implements and tools so they can hold their pannikin while they're boiling their water, or so they can keep the rifle out of the mud, or so they can hang up their poncho and make it easier for them to rig a shelter. And she said to me, and you know that throughout all my career, whenever I had a stockman or a tradesman or anyone come in and they had their kit with them, invariably they had their own little tools and implements, little things that they designed to make their life and their jobs so much easier. We're such a clever designing people. We love designing new things, and it doesn't matter what field it's in. Australians have excelled in designing in all fields of human endeavour. Think about it. The stump jump plough, or Interscan. How many people know, for example, that aircraft navigation systems were designed by Australians? The bionic ear, the bionic eye, the genome project, and on the list goes. We've had such an extraordinary impact on the world through being such a clever designing people. Thank heavens we are. If I asked you, who is the Australian who has had the greatest impact on the world, who would you think of? Not a sportsman, not an actor, a man called Howard Florey. Howard Florey didn't discover penicillin. It was discovered by a man called Fleming. We all know the story of the culture plate and the fact that he was such a messy scientist that a couple of spores from a mouldy orange in the corner that he'd forgotten he had there from his lunch blew onto it and caused the death of the bacteria. And he published it as essentially just a very interesting laboratory artefact that might, he figured, have some minor application therapeutically at some point. And it was Florey and his team who said, let's think about this. Maybe out of that, we can design a new drug or a new treatment, a new therapy for infectious diseases. Infectious diseases. We hardly think of them these days. In the 1930s, even a simple scratch could lead to septicemia and death. If ever you see photographs of soldiers from the First World War, wounded soldiers, on stretchers, outside of field ambulance, have a look at their clothes. They're rifled, they're pulled apart. First time I saw it, I thought, oh, some thieving so-and-so has been through trying to steal their gear, their watch, their wallet. No. The men themselves were looking to see where they'd been shot. Because if they had been shot in the stomach or in the chest, they knew that irrespective of the tissue damage, they were probably going to die from the infection that would follow. Florey did more than just design a new drug. He designed a whole new field of medicine. The treatment, the study of infectious disease. And more than that, he created a whole new industry. The biomedical industry. The modern biomedical and biopharmaceutical industry came from that design, that drug, penicillin. It was the first in a whole plethora of new treatments and new therapies. I'm really glad that he did create that industry. I've worked in it for the last 40 years. More than that, like everyone in this room, I've been a beneficiary from those discoveries, from the innovations that have come from that industry, especially in this country. When I was a young student, I lived on the balanced student diet. Cigarettes, coffee, chocolate bars and barley sugar. Not necessarily in that order. And my mother used to say to me, John, don't you realise what you're doing to your health? And think about your poor teeth. And I used to think, well, Mum, you don't really know. Well, guess what? She did. And a few years ago, I had a bridge fail. And I lost 3 teeth. And I thought, God, that's terrible. What am I going to do? I'm going to have to get dentures. And then my dentist said to me, no, there's a professor who's developed a new technique for implant surgery. You see, your jaw has receded. And it's not strong enough to take normal implants. And it probably wouldn't support a denture. My jaw's receded. Some people thought it was from overuse. Anyway, I went along to see this particular orthodontist and he said, yes, we can do that. What we do is we do a bone transplant. Excuse me, bone transplant? Turns out it was an absolutely brilliant technique. Almost painless in the jaw. The pain in the hip pocket, well, that's another story. But it was quite remarkable. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to leave you with this thought. Not everyone can come up with great innovations and great new designs for new therapies, new treatments, new medical devices. That's probably too much to ask. But I'll bet every one of you, sometimes when you're working or when you're at home, you're using your favourite tools or your favourite implements and you're thinking to yourself, gee, if only it did this, or if only it made this a little bit easier, or if only I had something that would make this just that little bit easier. Don't just think about it. Pick up a few bits of metal, pick up a bit of wire, pick up a couple of pieces of wood, and start playing around with them. Start fiddling, start tinkering. You never know what you might come up with. And remember this, you might not change the world. You might not create the great breakthrough that will change the world forever and all time. But you certainly might make your own life just that little bit easier. And you just might make an impact that carries on that long tradition of Australia, the designing people.